The glass shattered at 0547 hours. Eastern Front, March 12, 1943. Private Eric Steiner was setting up his first hide when his boot caught the edge of a broken vodka bottle. The glass fragments scattered across the frozen earth near his position. 3 pieces, each about the size of a playing card. Clear glass with that green tint cheap vodka bottles had. His spotter, Sergeant Klaus Bauer, turned to look at him. Didn't say anything. Didn't need to. The look said enough. First mission. First mistake. Making noise in a sniper hide was how you died. Snipers live by silence. One sound. One movement. One reflection. That's all it took for enemy snipers to locate you. Steiner was 21 years old. Born in Vienna. Drafted at 19. Infantry training for 6 months. Marksmanship scores high enough to qualify for sniper school. 3 months at Siedler Alpen, learning to shoot at distance. Learning to estimate range. Learning to read wind. Learning to remain motionless for hours. Learning that patience killed more enemy soldiers than marksmanship. But school wasn't combat. In school, the targets didn't shoot back. In school, mistakes meant poor scores, not death. This was his first operational mission. First time using the Carabiner 98K rifle with the Zeiss ZF-42 scope in actual combat. First time setting up a hide while enemy soldiers were 400 meters away with their own rifles pointed in his direction. The hide was simple. A shell crater from yesterday's artillery bombardment. Frozen earth providing cover. Scattered snow providing camouflage. A destroyed farm building 30 meters behind, providing concealment for approach and withdrawal. Standard sniper position. Nothing special, except it overlooked a Soviet supply route. Trucks moving ammunition and food to frontline positions. High-value targets for disruption. Bauer's job was observation. Watch for targets. Estimate range. Monitor wind conditions. Communicate with Steiner. Confirm kills. Watch for enemy snipers trying to locate them. The spotter was as important as a shooter. Maybe more important. A good spotter kept you alive. A bad spotter got you killed. They'd been in position for 20 minutes. Dawn was breaking. The light was perfect. Low angle. Long shadows. Visibility good at 400 meters. Conditions were ideal for the first shot. The Soviet supply trucks would appear within the hour. The plan was to disable the lead truck. 'Cause of traffic jam. Then target soldiers trying to clear the road. Standard interdiction tactics. But that was before Steiner kicked the glass. Before the fragments scattered. Before the mistake that should have compromised the position. Bauer was watching. Waiting to see if enemy soldiers had heard the sound. Waiting to see if they'd been located. 30 seconds passed. Nothing. 1 minute. Still nothing. Then sunlight hit the glass fragments. The angle was perfect. Dawn light reflecting off 3 pieces of green-tinted vodka bottle glass. 3 small, bright flashes visible from the Soviet positions 400 meters away. Bauer grabbed Steiner's shoulder. Pointed. Across the field, at the Soviet defensive line, muzzle flashes. 3 positions. Soviet soldiers firing at the glass reflections. Firing at what they thought was a sniper scope catching sunlight. Firing at the wrong target. Revealing their positions. Steiner watched through his scope. Saw the muzzle flashes. Saw exactly where the enemy shooters were positioned. Counted 7 soldiers. All firing at glass fragments. All exposed. All thinking they'd spotted a German sniper. They had. Just not where they thought. Chapter 1. The First Deception. Bauer's voice was quiet. Professional. Range to nearest shooter. Steiner adjusted his scope. Focus on the leftmost muzzle flash. 380 meters. Wind from northeast at maybe 4 meters per second. Target behind sandbag position. Partial concealment. What's your shot? Head visible. Approximately 12 centimeters exposed above sandbags. Clean shot if he maintains position. Wind correction. 0.2 milliradians right. Elevation set for 400 meters. Should impact high by 2 centimeters at 380. Acceptable margin. Bauer was testing him. Making sure Steiner understood the mathematics. Sniping was calculation. Bullet drop. Wind drift. Target movement. Distance estimation. Temperature effects on powder burn rate. Air density. Every variable mattered. Miss one calculation and the bullet went wide. Miss by 10 centimeters and the target survived. Survived and knew your approximate position. The Soviet soldier fired again at the glass fragments. Steiner watched him through the scope. The man was young, maybe 20. Rifle looked like a Mosin-Nagin M91/30. Standard Soviet infantry rifle. 5-round magazine. Bolt action. Effective range, 500 meters. He was firing rapidly. Not aimed shots. Suppression fire at what he thought was a threat. Take the shot, Bauer said. Steiner controlled his breathing. Exhale. Pause. Steady. The crosshairs settled on the target's head. 12 centimeters of exposed scalp and face above the sandbags. He squeezed the trigger. Smooth pressure. No jerking. The rifle recoiled against his shoulder. The 7.92 by 57 millimeters round left the barrel at 760 meters per second. Flight time at 380 meters, approximately 0.6 seconds. The target dropped. No dramatic fall. No obvious reaction. Just the one moment. Gone the next. Clean kill. The other Soviet soldiers didn't react immediately. Probably thought their comrade had ducked. Hadn't realized he was dead. Confirmed kill, Bauer said. Next target. Second position from left. Range 400 meters. Steiner worked the bolt. Ejected the spent casing. Chambered a fresh round. Acquired the second target. This one was smarter. Firing from behind better cover. Only his rifle muzzle and the top of his helmet visible. Not a clean shot. Steiner waited. Patience. The soldier would eventually expose more of himself. They always did. 30 seconds later, the soldier shifted position, probably trying to get a better angle on the glass reflections. His head came up, maybe 15 centimeters visible. Steiner fired. The soldier fell backward. Confirmed kill. The other Soviet soldiers realized something was wrong. Stopped firing at the glass. Started looking elsewhere, trying to locate the actual German sniper. But Steiner's hide was good. The crater provided perfect concealment. The background blended with the frozen field. His scope wasn't catching light because he positioned himself in shadow. The only thing visible had been the glass fragments, and those had been 30 meters away from his actual position. Over the next 40 minutes, Steiner killed 5 more Soviet soldiers. All 7 had exposed themselves firing at the glass reflections. All 7 had died because they'd shot at the wrong target. Because an accidental kick had scattered vodka bottle glass. Because sunlight had reflected off those fragments. Because the enemy had assumed reflection meant sniper scope. After the 7th kill, Bauer spoke. That glass. That accidental reflection. That just saved our lives and gave us 7 confirmed kills. Steiner looked at the glass fragments, still reflecting morning light. Still visible from Soviet positions. Still creating a false target that drew attention away from the actual sniper hide. What if it wasn't an accident? Steiner asked. What if we deliberately placed glass fragments? Multiple positions. Create multiple false targets. Make the enemy reveal themselves, shooting at reflections. Bauer was quiet for a long moment. Then, that's either brilliant or suicidal. Possibly both. But it worked this time. 7 kills. 0 compromises to our position. The mathematics favors testing it again. Chapter 2. Refining the technique. They tested it again on March 14th. Different location. Different hide. But same basic setup. Steiner collected glass fragments before they moved into position. Pieces from broken windows in a destroyed building. Clear glass. Green glass. Brown glass from beer bottles. Different colors. Different sizes. All capable of reflecting sunlight. This time the placement was deliberate. Steiner positioned 5 fragments at strategic locations. 3 fragments 20 meters ahead of the hide. 2 fragments 15 meters to the left. Each positioned at angles that would catch morning light. Each creating a false target. Each potentially drawing enemy fire. The location was a ridge overlooking a Soviet defensive position. Approximately 300 meters to nearest enemy soldiers. The ridge provided good fields of fire. Multiple targets visible. Good escape routes. Everything a sniper needed except one thing. The position was obvious. Any Soviet observer would identify the ridge as a likely sniper location. They'd watch it carefully. Probably had it pre-registered for artillery or mortar fire. But that was the point. Make them think the sniper was on the ridge. Make them focus on the obvious position, while the actual hide was 40 meters back in a destroyed barn. Less obvious. Better concealment. Worse field of fire, but acceptable if the enemy was focused elsewhere. Dawn came at 0612 hours. Sunlight hit the glass fragments at 0627. The reflections were obvious. Bright flashes visible from the Soviet positions. Steiner watched through his scope, counted 12 Soviet soldiers in the defensive line. Before looking directly at the glass reflections, 2 raised rifles started firing. The shots hit near the glass fragments. Dirt and snow kicked up. The shooters were good, hitting within 2 meters of the reflection. But they were shooting at empty ground. The actual sniper was 40 meters away. In shadow, undetected, Steiner began working. First target, the soldier who'd fired first. Range 285 meters. Wind negligible. Clean shot. The soldier dropped. Confirmed kill. Second target, the other shooter. Range 310 meters. Also a clean shot. 2 kills within 15 seconds. The Soviet defensive position erupted. Soldiers taking cover, looking for the German sniper. Some are still watching the ridge where the glass fragments reflected light. Some were scanning other areas. None were looking at the destroyed barn 40 meters behind the ridge. Over the next hour, Steiner killed 9 Soviet soldiers. All had exposed themselves trying to locate him. All had failed to identify the actual hide location. The glass fragments continued reflecting light, continued drawing attention, continued serving as false targets that kept enemy focus away from the real threat. After the 9th kill, Soviet artillery began hitting the ridge, exactly where the glass fragments were positioned. 3 shells, 82mm mortars. The explosions obliterated the false position, destroyed the glass fragments, cratered the ground where enemy soldiers thought the German sniper was hiding. Steiner and Bauer withdrew while the artillery was firing, used the noise and smoke as cover, moved back through the barn, escaped without being observed, returned to German lines by 0900 hours. 9 confirmed kills, 0 casualties. The technique had worked perfectly. That evening, Bauer reported to their company commander, Captain Werner Fischer, described the glass fragment tactic, the confirmed kills, the successful withdrawal. Fischer listened without interrupting. When Bauer finished, Fischer asked one question. "Can you teach this to other sniper teams?" "Yes, sir. The placement is critical. The angles must catch light. The distance from actual hide must be sufficient. But the technique is reproducible. Any sniper team with available glass fragments and proper positioning can implement it. Then document the procedure. I want a written protocol, diagrams, placement guidelines. Everything another team would need to replicate your results." Fischer paused, then added, "This could change how we conduct sniper operations. False targets, deception, making the enemy reveal themselves. It's not traditional sniping, but traditional methods have limitations. This might be better." Chapter 3, Doctrinal Resistance. The protocol reached division headquarters on March 18th. Bauer had written 6 pages. Detailed explanation of the glass fragment technique. Placement diagrams. Distance recommendations. Angle calculations. List of suitable materials. Expected results. Confirmed kill counts from 2 operational tests. The response came back on March 20th. Rejected. The division sniper training officer, Major Rudolf Kaufmann, provided written critique. This technique violates fundamental sniper doctrine. Snipers achieve success through concealment and camouflage. Creating deliberate reflections contradicts this principle. The risk of position compromise outweighs potential benefits. Recommend discontinuing experimentation. Return to established procedures. Steiner read the rejection in Fischer's office. Fischer was standing at the window, looking out at the frozen landscape, not speaking, letting Steiner process the decision. "Sir, the technique worked. 16 confirmed kills across 2 missions. 0 compromises to our position. The results demonstrate effectiveness." Fischer turned. "The results demonstrate that you and Bauer are good snipers who got lucky twice. That's what Kaufmann thinks. He believes you succeeded despite the glass fragments, not because of them. The enemy fired at the false positions, revealed themselves. We killed them because they were focused on the wrong location. That's not luck. That's deception working as intended." "I agree. But Kaufmann has 20 years of sniping experience. He trained most of the snipers in this division. His opinion carries weight. More weight than a 21-year-old private with 2 missions completed." Steiner stayed silent. Arguing wouldn't help. Kaufmann had made his decision. Official policy was to discontinue the technique. Return to traditional methods. No more glass fragments. No more deliberate deception. Back to pure concealment and camouflage. Fisher sat down, looked at Steiner directly. I'm going to tell you something off the record. Not as your company commander. As someone who's been in combat for 3 years and wants you to survive. Yes, sir. Kaufman's doctrine is based on Western Front experience. He learned sniping fighting British and American forces. Methodical enemies. Good equipment. Good training. Against them, traditional concealment works. Patience works. Waiting for the perfect shot works. Fisher paused. But this is the Eastern Front. Different enemy. Different conditions. The Soviets have more men than we have bullets. They have their own snipers. Good ones. Very good ones. Some of them are as good as Kaufman. Better, maybe. They hunt German snipers specifically. They're patient. They're skilled. And they're winning. Traditional doctrine isn't working here. Our sniper casualties are high. 3 teams lost last month. 5 the month before. The Soviets are adapting faster than we are. They're learning our techniques. Anticipating our positions. Killing our snipers before our snipers can kill them. Fisher tapped the protocol document. This glass fragment technique. This deception approach. It's different. The Soviets won't expect it because we don't do it. Kaufman won't approve it because it's not doctrine. But maybe that's exactly why it will work. He looked at Steiner. I can't order you to violate division policy. But I also can't stop you from accidentally kicking glass near your position. Or from accidentally placing glass fragments that happen to reflect light. Accidents happen in combat. Frequently. The message was clear. Use the technique. Don't document it officially. Don't report it. Don't draw attention. Just do it. And survive. Steiner understood. Sir, I tend to be clumsy. I kick a lot of glass. Very unfortunate. Fisher almost smiled. Dismissed. Over the next week, Steiner and Bauer used the glass fragment technique on 4 missions. 14 confirmed kills. 0 position compromises. No official reports mentioned glass fragments. No documentation existed. Just results. Just confirmed kills. Just survival. Other sniper teams noticed. Asked questions. How are Steiner and Bauer achieving high kill counts with low risk? What was their technique? Steiner showed them. Quietly. Off the record. No official training. Just practical demonstration. This is how you position glass. This is how you calculate angles. This is how you use reflections as false targets. Chapter 4. The technique spreads. By April 1943, 8 sniper teams in the division were using glass fragments. All quietly. All unofficially. All achieving better results than teams using traditional methods. The statistics were undeniable. Glass fragment teams averaged 11 confirmed kills per mission. Traditional teams averaged 6. Glass fragment teams had 0 casualties. Traditional teams had lost 2 snipers in March. The Soviet response was confusion. Their counter-sniper teams were targeting positions where they saw reflections. Hitting those positions with precise fire. Finding nothing. No German snipers. No equipment. Just broken glass and empty ground. The deception was working at scale. On April 14th, Steiner was on his 8th mission. New position. Railway line used for Soviet supply trains. The objective was to disrupt operations. Kill guards. Damage infrastructure. Create delay. Standard interdiction mission. He positioned glass fragments in 3 locations. One set 30 meters ahead. One set 25 meters right. One set 40 meters left. Creating a triangle of false positions around the actual hide. All positions chosen to catch morning light at different times. All positioned at ranges Soviet observers would consider likely sniper locations. The railway guards numbered approximately 20 soldiers. They were alert, scanning constantly. Previous German sniper activity on this line had made them cautious. Several guards had binoculars. One appeared to be a dedicated counter-sniper observer. At 0645 hours, sunlight hit the first set of glass fragments. The counter-sniper observer spotted it immediately. Pointed. 4 guards raised rifles. Began firing at the reflection. Steiner waited. Didn't engage. Let them waste ammunition on empty ground. Let them think they'd located the threat. The guards approached the first false position. 2 soldiers moving forward while others provided cover. Standard small unit tactics. They reached the glass fragments. Found nothing. The counter-sniper observer looked confused. Scanned the area for additional threats. At 0703 hours, sunlight hit the second set of glass fragments. Different angle. Different position. The guards reacted again. Fired at the new reflection. Approached cautiously. Found nothing again. The counter-sniper observer was frustrated now. Visible even at 300 meters. He was gesturing, probably ordering his men to search more carefully. While the guards were focused on the second false position, Steiner began engaging. First target, the counter-sniper observer. Range 315 meters. Clean headshot. The observer dropped. Confirmed kill. The other guards reacted instantly. Taking cover. Looking for the actual sniper. But they were looking in the wrong directions. Still focused on the areas where they'd seen reflections. Steiner killed 6 more guards over the next 30 minutes. Each target exposing themselves, trying to locate him. Each focusing on the false positions. Each dying because they were hunting ghosts while the real threat remained undetected. The remaining guards withdrew. Called for artillery support. Shells began impacting the false positions. Destroying the glass fragments. Cratering the empty ground. Wasting ammunition and time on targets that didn't exist. Steiner and Bauer withdrew during the artillery barrage. 7 confirmed kills. Mission successful. The railway operations were disrupted for 6 hours, while Soviet forces cleared what they thought were multiple German sniper positions. That evening, Bauer calculated the cumulative statistics. Since March 12th, they completed 8 missions. 47 confirmed kills. The glass fragment technique had been used in all 8 missions. Average of 5.9 kills per mission. 0 position compromises. 0 casualties to their team. The technique was working. Not occasionally. Consistently. Reproducibly. 8 different locations. 8 different tactical situations. 8 successful missions using the same core deception principle. Create false targets that draw enemy attention away from actual position. Other teams were reporting similar results. The unofficial network of snipers using glass fragments had grown to 12 teams. Combined confirmed kills, 143 enemy soldiers. Combined casualties, 0. The data was compelling. The technique worked better than traditional methods by every measurable metric. Stories like this deserve to reach those who value them. If this account held meaning for you, consider helping others discover it. A like tells the algorithm to share this with similar audiences. Subscribing to the channel and enabling notifications ensures these stories reach you when new accounts are published. Your engagement becomes a form of historical preservation, connecting those who seek this knowledge with those who've taken time to document it properly. Chapter 5. Soviet Adaptation. The Soviets weren't stupid. By May 1943, their counter-sniper units recognized the pattern. German positions with visible reflections contained no German snipers. The reflections were decoys. False targets. Deception. The Soviet response was systematic. When they spotted reflections, they didn't immediately fire. They watched, waited, tried to locate the actual sniper position relative to the false target. The assumption was logical. The German sniper was near the reflection, within supporting distance, probably 20 to 50 meters away. This adaptation reduced the technique's effectiveness. Soviet soldiers stopped revealing themselves, firing at reflections. Started searching the areas around reflections for actual threats. The deception was less reliable. Steiner noticed the change on May 8th. He positioned glass fragments as usual. Morning light created reflections. Soviet soldiers spotted them, but instead of firing, they watched. Scanned the surrounding area. Tried to locate him based on likely high positions near the false target. The technique needed evolution. Simple reflections weren't enough anymore. The deception required additional layers. Make the Soviet soldiers believe something more than just reflection equals sniper. Make them commit to a response that reveal their positions. Bauer suggested the solution. What if we make the reflection move? A static reflection is suspicious, but movement suggests an actual sniper adjusting position. That might trigger their response. Steiner considered this. Moving a reflection required moving the glass. That required someone physically adjusting the fragment's position. Risky, but potentially effective. They tested it on May 10th. Steiner positioned glass fragments as usual. But this time, Bauer remained 50 meters behind the primary hide. His job: wait for Soviet observers to spot the reflection, then use a long pole to slightly adjust the glass fragment's angle. Create movement. Make it appear like a sniper scope, shifting position. The pole was simple: 3-meter length of wood, notch carved at the end to catch the glass fragment's edge. Bauer could reach the fragment while remaining concealed in a secondary position. Adjust it. Create apparent movement. Then withdraw before enemy fire arrived. At 0734 hours, Soviet observers spotted the glass reflection. They watched. Didn't fire. Scanned the area. After 3 minutes, Bauer used the pole. Adjusted the glass fragment's angle. The reflection shifted. Moved approximately 15 centimeters. Enough movement to suggest position adjustment. The Soviet response was immediate. 6 soldiers opened fire on the reflection. Concentrated fire, trying to hit what they thought was a German sniper repositioning, revealing their exact locations. Their muzzle flashes visible. Their positions exposed. Steiner engaged. For kills in 2 minutes. The Soviets realized their error. Ceased fire. Took cover. But 4 men were dead because they'd responded to apparent movement. The technique had evolved. Static reflections didn't work anymore. But movement, apparent position changes, triggered responses. The psychology was sound. A static reflection might be a decoy, but movement suggested a living person, a threat, something that required immediate response. Over the next 3 weeks, Steiner and Bauer refined the moving reflection technique, tested different types of movement, different timing, different angles, found that subtle movements worked better than dramatic ones. 10 to 20 centimeters of shift, just enough to suggest adjustment, not so much that it looked artificial. The confirmed kills increased again. May totals: 23 enemy soldiers. The moving reflections had restored the technique's effectiveness despite Soviet adaptation. The deception was now 2-layer. False position, then false movement within that false position. Each layer designed to trigger responses that exposed enemy soldiers. Other sniper teams adopted the moving reflection technique. The implementation required 2-person coordination. Spotter adjusting glass while shooter engaged targets. More complex than simple static reflections, but more effective against an enemy that had learned to distrust static deceptions. Chapter 6: The 150th Kill. September 3rd, 1943. 6 months after the first accidental glass reflection, Steiner was setting up for what would become his most significant mission. The target was a Soviet field headquarters. Intelligence indicated the location held approximately 30 soldiers, including officers. High-value targets. Disrupting the headquarters would impact Soviet operations across a 15-kilometer front section. But the position was heavily defended. Multiple guard posts. Counter-sniper teams. Artillery support available. Traditional sniper tactics were unlikely to succeed. Approach close enough for clean shots meant risk of detection. The headquarters security was too good. Too alert. Too many observers watching for threats. Steiner proposed an alternative. Use the glass fragment technique at scale. Create not just false sniper positions, but an entire false attack. Make the Soviet forces respond to a threat that didn't exist. While they were responding, conduct the actual engagement from unexpected positions. Fisher approved the plan. Assigned 4 sniper teams. 8 snipers total. Each team with specific positions and responsibilities. Coordinated timing. Multiple false targets. Multiple real positions. A complex deception operation using broken glass and coordinated fire. The teams deployed on September 2nd. Spent 18 hours preparing positions. Placed glass fragments at 12 locations surrounding the headquarters. Each location chosen to appear as a likely sniper hide. Each positioned at ranges where a competent sniper might reasonably operate. The glass fragments were positioned to catch morning light from different angles at different times. September 3rd, 06:18 hours. First light reached the easternmost glass fragments. Soviet observers spotted the reflections immediately. Alerted the headquarters. Guards moved to defensive positions. Artillery was contacted for potential fire missions. At 0625 hours, Bauer adjusted one of the eastern glass fragments. Created apparent movement. Soviet response was immediate. Heavy fire on that position. Guards advancing to clear the perceived threat. Counter-sniper teams focusing on that area. While Soviet forces concentrated east, Steiner engaged from the south. Range 340 meters. First target. Officer standing near the headquarters building. Clean headshot. Confirmed kill. Second target. Radio operator attempting to call for support. Also confirmed. Third target. Guard looking in the wrong direction. 3 kills in 45 seconds. The Soviet forces realized the threat was coming from multiple directions. Try to reorient. But more glass reflections were appearing. Western positions now catching light. Northern positions. Each reflection triggering responses. Each response revealing soldier positions. Each revealed position becoming a target. 4 sniper teams engaged simultaneously. Coordinated fire from 4 different directions. Soviet guards couldn't establish effective defense. Couldn't identify all threat locations. Couldn't respond to attacks from multiple azimuths. The headquarters security collapsed. Over 90 minutes, the 4 teams killed 27 Soviet soldiers, including 3 officers. Destroyed radio equipment. Forced evacuation of the headquarters. Soviet operations in that sector were disrupted for 3 days while they re-established command structure. Steiner's personal count for that mission: 8 confirmed kills. His 150th confirmed kill since March 12th, 6 months. 150 enemy soldiers killed using a technique discovered by accident. By kicking a vodka bottle. By noticing how sunlight reflected off glass. By recognizing that reflections could serve as deception. After the mission, Fisher assembled all 4 sniper teams. Congratulated them. Then said something unexpected. This technique. This glass fragment deception. It's changed how we conduct sniper operations. Higher kill counts. Lower casualties. Better tactical results. But we can't keep it unofficial forever. Eventually, someone at division headquarters will notice our success rate. They'll ask questions. They'll want to know what we're doing differently. He paused. When that happens, we need documentation. Official protocols. Training procedures. This needs to become doctrine. Not just something we do quietly, but something the entire army does openly. That means convincing Kaufman. Convincing division. Convincing people who rejected this technique 6 months ago. Chapter 7. Building the case. Fisher assigned Bauer to compile comprehensive documentation. Not just the original 6-page protocol from March. A complete tactical manual. Everything a sniper team would need to implement the glass fragment technique systematically. Bauer worked for 3 weeks. The resulting document was 34 pages. Included sections on material selection, placement methodology, angle calculations, distance recommendations, terrain considerations, multi-position coordination, moving reflection techniques, Soviet countertactics, risk mitigation, training procedures, and statistical analysis of outcomes. The statistics section was most compelling. 6 months of data. 16 sniper teams using the technique. 312 confirmed kills attributed to glass fragment deception across 87 missions. Average kills per mission, 3.6. Casualty rate, 2.1% compared to 8.7% for traditional sniper teams. The technique was demonstrably safer and more effective. The document was submitted to division headquarters on September 24th. Captain Fisher included a cover letter requesting official evaluation. Kaufman received it on September 26th. His initial response was unchanged. The technique violated fundamental sniper doctrine, created unnecessary risks. The success statistics were acknowledged, but attributed to the skill of individual snipers rather than the technique itself. Recommendation: continue traditional methods. Discontinue experimental approaches. But Kaufman made a mistake. He shared his rejection with the division's chief of staff, Colonel Heinrich Mahler. Mahler was interested in tactical innovation. Asked to see the full documentation. Read all 34 pages. Examine the statistics. Then requested a field demonstration. October 2nd, 1943. Steiner and Bauer conducted a live demonstration for Kaufman, Mahler, and 3 other division staff officers. The location was a Soviet-held village under observation. The target was a known guard post. Approximately 8 Soviet soldiers. Standard defensive position. Steiner positioned glass fragments at 2 locations. Both visible from the guard post. Both positioned to catch afternoon light. The officers observed from a safe position 200 meters behind Steiner's hide. At 1,447 hours, sunlight hit the first glass fragments. The Soviet guards spotted the reflection within 30 seconds. Raised weapons. Began scanning for threats. Bauer used the pole technique. Adjusted the glass fragment. Created apparent movement. 3 Soviet guards opened fire on the false position. Steiner engaged. 2 kills in 10 seconds. The remaining Soviet guards took cover. Looked confused, uncertain where the shots originated. 1 guard stood to reposition. Steiner killed him. 3 confirmed kills. The demonstration lasted 4 minutes. After returning to division headquarters, Mahler convened a tactical review. The officers who'd observed the demonstration provided assessments. All acknowledged the technique's effectiveness. The deception had worked exactly as documented. Soviet soldiers had revealed themselves responding to false targets. The German sniper had remained undetected while engaging from an unexpected position. Kaufman remained skeptical. One successful demonstration doesn't prove systematic value. This could still be an outlier. Luck combined with shooter skill. Mahler responded, "Major, the statistics indicate 87 missions over 6 months. 312 confirmed kills. Casualty rates less than half of traditional methods. That's not luck. That's a pattern. That's evidence of tactical effectiveness." He turned to address the full group. "Gentlemen, our sniper casualties are unacceptable. We're losing experienced men faster than we can train replacements. The Soviets are winning the sniper war. They have more men, better cold weather gear, and they're learning our tactics faster than we're learning theirs. We need advantages. We need innovation. This glass fragment technique provides both." Mahler made his decision. Effective immediately, this technique is approved for division-wide implementation. "Major Kaufman, you'll oversee training development. Captain Fisher, your teams will serve as training cadre. We'll begin with voluntary adoption. Sniper teams who want to learn the technique can request training. After 1 month, we'll evaluate results and decide on mandatory implementation." Kaufman's expression showed he disagreed. But Mahler was his superior officer. The decision was made. The unofficial technique was now official doctrine. Chapter 8. Training Expansion. The first official training session occurred on October 8, 1943. 12 sniper teams attended. 24 soldiers total. Steiner and Bauer led the instruction. Kaufman observed, but didn't participate. His disapproval was obvious. But he followed orders. Allowed the training to proceed. The curriculum was systematic. Day 1. Theory. The physics of light reflection. How glass catches sunlight. How angles affect visibility. How to calculate optimal placement based on sun position, time of day, and observer locations. The psychology of deception. Why soldiers respond to reflections. Why movement triggers stronger responses than static targets. Day 2. Practical placement. Teams practiced positioning glass fragments in various terrain types. Forest. Open field. Urban ruins. Each environment required different considerations. Different angles. Different distances from actual hide positions. Different materials worked better in different situations. Clear glass for bright conditions. Darker tinted glass for overcast days. Larger fragments for long-range deception. Smaller fragments for subtle effects. Day 3. Moving reflection techniques. Spotter and shooter coordination. Pole construction. Timing considerations. How to create apparent movement that looked natural. How much movement triggered responses versus arousing suspicion. How to adjust fragments while remaining concealed. How to coordinate glass adjustment with engagement timing. Day 4. Multi-position deception. Coordinating multiple glass fragment locations. Creating complex false target arrays. Making enemy forces respond to multiple perceived threats simultaneously. How to position real sniper hides relative to false positions. How to coordinate fire between multiple teams. Day 5. Live fire exercise. Each team conducted an actual mission using the techniques learned. Real targets. Real Soviet positions. Real engagement. Steiner and Bauer observed and provided feedback. Kaufman also observed. Taking notes. Evaluating effectiveness. Result from the live fire exercises. 11 of 12 teams achieved confirmed kills. 9 teams reported enemy soldiers responding to glass reflections, as predicted. 7 teams successfully used moving reflection techniques. 3 teams coordinated multi-position deceptions. Average confirmed kills per team, 2.8. 0 casualties among training teams. Kaufman compiled his assessment report on October 14th. The report was 5 pages. Detailed analysis of training outcomes. Honest evaluation of technique effectiveness. His conclusions were surprising. The glass fragment deception technique demonstrates measurable tactical value. Training teams achieved higher kill counts with lower risk exposure compared to baseline expectations for standard sniper operations. The technique is reproducible. Success appears dependent on proper implementation rather than individual shooter skill. Recommend continued training expansion pending long-term outcome evaluation. It was an enthusiastic endorsement, but it was official acknowledgement that the technique worked. From the officer who'd rejected it 7 months earlier. From the division's most experienced sniper instructor. From a man whose approval mattered most for permanent doctrinal adoption. Mahler authorized expansion. Every sniper team in the division would receive training. Mandatory participation. 4-day, condensed curriculum. Steiner and Bauer would train the instructors. Those instructors would train additional teams. Cascading implementation across the entire division. By November 1943, 47 sniper teams had completed training. By December, 63 teams. The technique spread beyond the division. Other units heard about it. Requested information. Borrowed the training manual. Adapted the procedures to their situations. The innovation that started with an accidental kick bottle was becoming standard practice across multiple divisions on the Eastern Front. The statistical impact was measurable. In October 1943, before widespread training, division sniper teams averaged 4.2 confirmed kills per mission with 7.3% casualty rate. In December, after training expansion, averages increased to 6.8 confirmed kills per mission with 3.9% casualty rate. Higher effectiveness. Lower risk. The numbers validated what Steiner and Bauer had been arguing for 8 months. Deception worked better than pure concealment. Stories like this deserve to reach those who value them. If this account held meaning for you, consider helping others discover it. A like tells the algorithm to share this with similar audiences. Subscribing to the channel and enabling notifications ensures these stories reach you when new accounts are published. Your engagement becomes a form of historical preservation, connecting those who seek this knowledge with those who've taken time to document it properly. Chapter 9. Soviet Counter-Innovation. The Soviets adapted again. By January 1944, they developed countertactics specifically designed to defeat glass fragment deception. The response was sophisticated, multi-layered, based on understanding how the German technique worked and exploiting its weaknesses. First layer. Ignore visible reflections. Soviet soldiers were instructed not to fire at reflections regardless of apparent movement. Reflections were assumed to be decoys. Any soldier firing at a reflection faced disciplinary action for wasting ammunition and revealing position. Second layer. Use reflections to locate actual sniper. If German snipers placed glass fragments near their hides, then finding glass fragments indicated a German sniper was nearby. Soviet counter-sniper teams began searching areas around visible reflections, looking for actual hide positions, treating the glass as a marker that said, German sniper within 50 meters. Third layer. Use their own reflections as bait. Soviet snipers began placing their own glass fragments deliberately, creating false targets that drew German sniper fire. When German snipers engaged targets exposed by Soviet reflections, the Soviet counter-sniper teams triangulated the German position based on shot origin. The deception had become bidirectional. Steiner encountered this evolved Soviet countertactic on January 17, 1944. He positioned glass fragments, as usual, expected Soviet soldiers to respond. Instead, they ignore the reflections completely. No fire. No investigation. Just complete disregard. Then he noticed Soviet soldiers moving systematically through the area around his glass fragments. Searching. Looking for him. Using his own deception technique to locate him. The tables had turned. The deception that had worked for 10 months was now compromised. Steiner and Bauer withdrew without engaging. Returned to German lines. Reported the Soviet countertactics to Fischer. The technique needed another evolution. The simple glass fragment deception wasn't enough anymore. The Soviets had learned, adapted, developed countermeasures. Fischer convened a meeting of sniper team leaders on January 19th. 15 teams represented. Discussion topic: how to adapt the glass fragment technique against Soviet countertactics. The problem was clear. The solution wasn't. Sergeant Heinrich Krauss from the 4th team suggested, what if we use glass fragments to locate Soviet snipers instead of just decoying them? If they're placing their own reflections, those reflections reveal their approximate positions. We search the area around Soviet reflections the same way they search around ours. Lance Corporal Thomas Becker from the 7th team added, what if we combine glass fragments with other deception methods? Audio decoys, dummy positions, coordinated movement. Make it harder for them to determine which signals are real and which are false. Increase their uncertainty. The discussion continued for 3 hours. Multiple ideas proposed. Multiple variations suggested. The consensus: the technique needed to become more sophisticated, more adaptive, less predictable. The simple reflection deception had worked while it was novel. Now it needed complexity. Over February 1944, sniper teams tested various adaptations. Combined audio and visual deception. Used glass fragments to locate Soviet counter-sniper positions rather than just as decoys. Created multi-stage deceptions where glass fragments served different purposes at different phases of the engagement. Varied the patterns. Made the technique less formulaic. The results were mixed. Some adaptations worked. Some failed. The Soviet countertactics were effective. The simple advantage of glass fragment deception was diminished. Kill rates decreased from 6.8 per mission in December to 4.9 in February. Still better than pre-technique baseline of 4.2. But trending downward. The innovation was aging. The enemy was catching up. Steiner's personal statistics reflected the trend. His confirmed kill count had reached 183 by January 1944. By March, it was 197. The rate was slower. 14 kills in 2 months compared to previous averages of 25 to 30. The technique still worked, but not as effectively. The Soviets had learned, adapted, reduced the advantage. The arms race of deception and counter-deception continued, each side adapting to the other's innovations. Neither side maintaining permanent advantage. Just constant evolution, constant adaptation. The technique that had started with an accidental kick bottle had become a complex tactical system with its own doctrine and its own counter-doctrine. Chapter 10. Legacy of Accidental Innovation. Erich Steiner survived the war. Final confirmed kill count: 209 enemy soldiers. Most achieved using some variation of the glass fragment deception technique. He was wounded twice. Frostbite in February 1944. Shrapnel wound in July 1944. Evacuated to Germany in October 1944 as Soviet forces advanced. Spent the last months of the war training new sniper recruits, teaching the techniques he developed, including glass fragment deception. After the war, Steiner returned to Vienna, worked as a machinist, married in 1948, had 3 children, lived quietly, never talked about his wartime service. The 209 confirmed kills weren't something he celebrated, just something he'd done, something the war required. Klaus Bauer also survived, became a teacher after the war, physics and mathematics, taught in Munich for 35 years, retired in 1980. He occasionally lectured at military history conferences, spoke about sniper tactics on the Eastern Front, about innovation under combat conditions, about how accidents sometimes reveal tactical opportunities. The glass fragment technique didn't survive as official doctrine. Post-war sniper training returned to traditional methods. Focus on concealment, camouflage, patience. The wartime innovations, the deceptions, the complex multi-position operations, the deliberate false targets, were archived, studied by military historians, but not actively taught. Part of the reason was technological. Post-war optics improved dramatically. Scopes with better coatings, anti-reflection treatments, laser rangefinders, thermal imaging. The problem that glass fragment deception solved how to make enemy snipers reveal themselves, became less relevant when you could detect enemy positions without requiring them to fire. But part of the reason was cultural. Military institutions value tradition, proven methods, established doctrine. The glass fragment technique was improvisation, field innovation. It had worked during wartime necessity, but peacetime military preferred systematic approaches, laboratory-tested equipment, standardized procedures. The messy innovation of combat didn't fit institutional preferences. Still, the principle survived. Modern military doctrine acknowledges the value of deception in sniper operations, creating false positions, using decoys, making enemy forces respond to threats that don't exist. The specific technique, glass fragments catching sunlight, is obsolete. But the concept, make the enemy reveal themselves by responding to false targets, remains valid. Special Operations Forces study Steiner's case in training, not to learn about glass fragments, to learn about tactical adaptation, about how soldiers facing real problems develop real solutions, about how field innovation can exceed laboratory engineering, about how sometimes the best tactical developments come from accidents, not from planning. The broader lesson is about innovation under constraints. Steiner didn't have better equipment than Soviet snipers, didn't have better training, didn't have technological advantages. What he had was a problem. Soviet forces outnumbered German forces. Soviet snipers were effective. Traditional German sniper doctrine was producing high casualties. His solution was environmental. Use what's available. Broken glass was everywhere on the Eastern Front. Destroyed buildings. Smashed bottles. Shattered windows. He turned debris into tactical advantage. Made the environment work for him instead of against him. That's the innovation, not the specific technique. The methodology. Look at your environment. Identify available resources. Find ways to use those resources that the enemy doesn't expect. Create advantages from things that seem worthless. Turn accidents into systematic approaches. Modern militaries face similar challenges. Fighting in urban environments. Dealing with improvised explosive devices. Countering insurgent tactics. The solutions often come from soldiers in the field, not from generals in headquarters, not from engineers in laboratories, from people facing the actual problems, using the actually available resources, finding the actually working solutions. Steiner's glass fragment technique was one example. There are hundreds of others, thousands, small innovations that made differences in specific situations. Most never documented, most never studied, most forgotten after the immediate problem passed. But collectively, they represent how militaries actually adapt, how tactics actually evolve, how war actually works, not according to doctrine, but according to necessity. The 21-year-old on his first mission who accidentally kicked a bottle and discovered that reflections could serve as deception, who tested the idea, who refined the technique, who taught it to others, who survived 209 combat engagements using a method he'd invented by accident. His story isn't about being a great sniper. It's about recognizing opportunities, about turning mistakes into advantages, about innovation under the worst possible conditions, and about how sometimes the most effective tactical developments start with simple accidents. A kick bottle, reflected sunlight, and the presence of mind to notice that the enemy's response revealed more than it concealed. Stories like this deserve to reach those who value them. If this account held meaning for you, consider helping others discover it. A like tells the algorithm to share this with similar audiences. Subscribing to the channel and enabling notifications ensures these stories reach you when new accounts are published. Your engagement becomes a form of historical preservation, connecting those who seek this knowledge with those who've taken time to document it properly.